Hello and welcome to the Homeless Consultant channel. My name is Paul B. I am the Homeless Consultant. And it has been a year and a half, maybe even more, since I last posted a video to this channel. I have to be honest, I had no intention of posting another one right now. However, something happened a couple of days ago. Sometimes something happens that needs to be told to the people, and this is an instance of that. And before I begin, I just need to recap really briefly, and forgive me, I'm probably just going to have to talk fast through this whole thing to speed it up for your sake. But recap how I got where I am very briefly. When I moved to Minnesota, I had an apartment in a small apartment building. It was very, very nice. I was very productive, had a great time. After several years, it began to degenerate in terms of the people who moved in, to the point where I had what appeared to be a meth lab upstairs, just a lot of welfare people who didn't work, and they were banging, pounding, screaming, cars outside, you know, boom, 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 boom. And, you know, I worked for a living. And also, I don't watch television. Haven't watched TV since 1996, I think. Didn't have the internet at home. I do things all day long. I'm always productive. It's what I want to do. It's what I have every right to do, especially in my own home. These people made my home life absolutely intolerable. And even as I approached them and asked them very nicely to stop, they refused. And it became a situation where I was just being tortured and tormented 24 hours a day inside my own home. Now, of course, there's laws against it. There's noise laws against it. In our lease agreement, had clauses against disrupting neighbors like that. But from the very bottom, at the landlord level, to the very top, the governor of Minnesota, over the many years I fought that battle, nobody would do anything. And when I say nobody, I mean not one. And yet, through it all, every one of them collected their paychecks. One of the themes of this channel, one of the themes that you have to be aware of, is the concept of the lazy bum, particularly in the state of Minnesota. I have been to most states. I studied what life was like in most of those states for a documentary film. Minnesota is different than other states. It's fundamentally different. There's a bit of overflow into Wisconsin, Iowa, but Minnesota is unlike anything I've ever seen. It functions more like a cult than anything else. So when it comes to these noise laws, they would, for example, enforce the laws on behalf of themselves. You know, the mayor, if the mayor has disruptive neighbors, a friend of a police officer, a legislator, something like that, then all of a sudden those noise laws apply. But when I, just a humble working man, came to them for help and asked them to enforce their own laws, nothing doing. If I contacted them by email or phone, I would never hear a word from any of them at any level as they collected their paychecks. If I went to speak to them in person, they would fidget and weasel out of it with that little Minnesota nice smile, you know, faking sincerity, and do everything they can to get you out of there, including telling you they'll contact you, and they never did. From the very bottom, the landlord who refused to enforce his own lease, that clause, he enforced the part about paying rent, things like that, all the way up to the governor's office, who never responded. Attorney General's office, really every office from the city up to the state. Now, as I normally do to try to get a handle on what's happening, I spent about the last 2 years in that place creating a website and researching and studying noise, the impact of loud, violent boom noise on the human body, the human mind. And I very quickly found that noise has been weaponized in many, many, many cases for a long, long time. Actually going way back, but you know, the rebel yell is a good example of that. Can you imagine trying to sleep when you have to work the next day with a rebel yell? Well, I didn't have a rebel yell. Instead, I just had some lady screaming bloody murder downstairs. What's the difference? The rebel yell was meant to terrorize people. What's the difference with what she was doing? Anyway, from that I created a website which I think was the premier website on the impact of noise on health, and I sent that out to everybody across country, everyone who had any skin in that game. I didn't hear back from a single Minnesotan on that, including the Minnesota Department of Health. Nobody cared. Didn't matter to them. It was only other people being tortured and tormented inside their own home. It wasn't them, and they're the only ones that matter. You see, this is Minnesota. It operates like a cult, and I was an outsider. I did hear back, oddly enough, from people I contacted in other states. Go figure. If you see a pattern there, think about it. So that's the gist of what happened there. The thing is, what noise does to you when it's permanent like that, when it's constant and it never ends, is it incapacitates you. It makes you unable to do anything. And then they had mass layoffs at work. I lost my job right before Thanksgiving without any advance notice or warning of any kind. And all of a sudden I'm in this horrific, basically militarized environment 24 hours a day. And nobody would help. For example, I went to a church, the first of more than 100 churches now I've gone to. Got no help, by the way. But this very first one, the pastor laughed and said, well, maybe we'll see your stuff on Storage Wars. And within 2 years, I had lost everything, all that stuff. Everything I'd worked my entire life to earn. Nobody cared, ever. There were a few, institutionally, there were a few individuals who cared. I have experienced a couple here and there, examples of people being incredibly kind and generous. Those are the things that warm my heart that I'll carry with me. But as a group, as a state, as a unique subculture in America, Minnesota disgusts me. I don't have the words, and I'm a writer. I've never found the words to express the kind of contempt I feel for these people. And they did it again. They just did it again. So here's what happened. You know, I couldn't work at first. I have my notes to the left, by the way, if I look to the left. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't do anything. They've created these laws here, particularly when it comes to paperwork. You have to sign at the bottom, I certify all information is true and correct, under penalty of perjury, a felony. And right at the top is your address. If I don't have an address, I can't fill out that, honestly. I would have to put in another address, which is not my address. That's a lie. That's perjury. And I'm not going to do it. So I fought to have that changed instead. You know, I'm trying to do the right thing through all of this, but the thing is, another theme of this site you're going to find is that these people are so caught up in themselves, they're so self-absorbed that they cannot comprehend that other people have different situations than they do. You could call it a total lack of empathy, and it is. It's sociopathic. You don't need a degree in psychology or psychiatry to figure that one out. Any definition of sociopathology from the DSM-4 onward is Minnesotans fit that characteristic. That's what Minnesota nice is. It's this thing of projecting a fake image of who you really are, so that people never know who they're dealing with. And that filters over into their administrative policies in government, in their media. It's all corrupt. It's all corrupt to the core, just like any other cult. You know, like Scientology. Anything that keeps people under control and keeps outsiders out, that treats outsiders as a threat. Well, when I became homeless, I suddenly became an even more of an outsider, not just a native Minnesotan, but now I'm in this situation that these people can't comprehend or empathize with because it's a sociopathic style cult that runs this state, that is this state. And along with that website, I did things where I was trying to raise money to get out of Minnesota. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted. I'd lost everything. I even created a electronic drum set based on the noise that my neighbors made. You know, you can't make this stuff up. The truth is stranger than fiction. So, you know, police officers wouldn't help. They would just justify, you know, what the people making noise. They didn't even try, you know, with me. Again, they did it for other people, for their friends. They would just put a stop to it. but not for me. So they completely mangled, destroyed my life. I was completely incapacitated, the exact same way that noise was used as a weapon for a month at Waco, Texas. Those 76 men and women and children who were burned alive by the government, gassed and burned alive by the government, they were subjected to noise harassment from the government the whole time. You wonder why they were making bad decisions? Well, other than the fact that they had 3 snipers' nests outside, so if anyone tried to leave, they'd get shot, and they did. Other than that, they're out there with these huge speakers playing this evil music all the time, horrible noises to just terrify those people inside. They used noise as a weapon, and it disrupted their ability to think properly and to function. And that's just one example of the weaponization of noise. So I couldn't do anything. Minnesota, because of this cult mentality out here, they've set up their paperwork, their policies, everything, so that if you don't have an address, you are forced by law to break the law. So I fought the battle trying to get that fixed, because I'm not here to break the law. That's not what I'm here for. I'm trying not to. I'm the guy who obeyed the law. I'm the only person on the road who's driving the speed limit while all of these nice Minnesotans are just zooming by, tailgating just this far behind my car, flipping me off. This is Minnesota nice. You put them in a situation where they're not right in your face, and they will show their true colors. And I got to the point where I lost absolutely everything. I mean everything. I even lost the website. Couldn't afford to keep the website going. Everything I'd worked my entire life for. I was down to 0. Last tank of gas was about a half a tank of gas. And I went to wherever I could. Somehow, well, I know how. Thank you, Lord. This family, at the very last minute, met me, heard my story, and they took me in. Didn't even know me, and they took me in. Gave me an address. Within 2 weeks, I had a job. The job I still hold today, almost 2 years later, about a little over a year and a half later. That's all I needed, was an address, warm bed. That's all I needed. Now, they couldn't keep me there forever, of course, and that didn't fix the problems I had as far as getting a place to live. But I still have the job, and for the first year, about 14 months, I only took 1 day off work, and that was for my 50th birthday. If it had not been my 50th birthday, I wouldn't have taken that day off either. Eventually, my bosses told me, you've got to take off work. You're going to burn out if you don't. Okay, I granted them that. So here I am today. I took 6 days off before the holiday rush. Got this cheap hotel to come in here and get some things done. And what's on my plate, my agenda, is about 6 months worth of work. Now I want to point out at this job, I have perfect attendance, the only person I might add with perfect attendance, and one reason for that is because I don't get sick. I haven't been sick in 25 years, since I stopped using our healthcare system. Because back in the mid-90s, I recognized what was going on. I knew enough about history to see what was going on. I saw the other examples of governments who used health fascism to bring in oppressive control and to ruin the healthcare system in the process, I might add. I also saw at the same time how academia and the school system was dumbing people down so that they didn't know that history, so they couldn't recognize what was going on. And they didn't learn things as simple as, what a child would know in the 1800s, whether they went to school or not. I mean, these people don't even understand the law of supply and demand. I have a video about the law of supply and demand on my channel. Check it out. Among other things, the law of supply and demand says that if you increase funding for healthcare, primarily by health insurance, if you increase the amount of money, if you increase the supply of money that is available to pay for healthcare, the cost of healthcare is going to rise. It's going to rise to consume the amount of money that's available to spend on healthcare. So the more health insurance you provide, the higher the healthcare costs get. That's why when I just got out of high school and I had a hernia and I had to go to the hospital for hernia surgery, I could pay for it myself. Whereas today, I would need health insurance and it would probably still take years to get fixed, as far paid for. The healthcare system it is no joke. It is the scariest thing. It is one of the scariest things we have going on in this country. And the fact that the population's been dumbed down in the process means it's even harder to fix, because nobody understands what the real problem is. They certainly don't understand things like, how do you build, for example, how do you build an Aryan race? If you want to have a supermaster race, some kind of Ubermensch, how do you do that without using health care? You want them to be healthy, you want them to be strong, you want their genetics to be the way it is. You're bringing in all this eugenics, deciding who can have children and who cannot, or who should be killing their children. Eugenics. Can you think of anyone in the last century who's done that, trying to build a master race? That was done through healthcare. You might want to read a few books and see how the Nazis implemented, how did they take control over people's lives. They did it by claiming to help people, to care about people. We care about you. We want you to be healthy. We want your children to be healthy. We want to save the children. We want them to be strong. We want them to be intelligent. We want them to be Aryans. But people don't understand history anymore, especially in this state, which functions like a cult. They're not going to learn anything, let alone accurate history. So I'm in this hotel for the last, so I'm in 6 days, right? Yeah. So I came in on Sunday. My goal was to get some things done. I brought stuff in. I brought, as far as music making, I got this little keyboard sequencer for my soft synthesizers on my computer. Got a little drum machine. Got my ever-present drumsticks, of course. And, building back some things. I got my electric guitar. Not really in tune. Yeah, I gotta tune this little guy. I wanted to get some recording done. One of the things I had in that apartment I built over the years with a lot of hard work and a lot of money was a full recording studio for audio and video production. I had a lot of projects I wanted to do. I never once got to use it because by the time I had that thing together where it was functional, that noise was so omnipresent. I couldn't record because of the noise, but also I couldn't think straight. I couldn't get anything done. It goes back to the weaponization of noise. And I ended up losing the whole studio. Now I have these minimal tools available to me again. But all that boom, bam, boom, 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 in the cars, the people screaming, yelling, shouting, the guy up there cooking his meth, which nobody cared about either, by the way, but why harp on that? So when I came in here, I was going to get a lot done. It's my only chance to do it. The last year and a half I've been working. That's all I've been doing is working. I get a little time here and there, days off and such, but you can't, when you're sleeping in a car, you can't get anything done. Another thing I am working on is writing a book about my experience in Minnesota, about the way I've been treated here. This message is going to get out. It may be slow going, but it will get out. Whether this news media in Minnesota wants to keep sitting on this and not telling anyone, you're just making it worse for yourselves. This is going to get out. I promise you that. So I've been working on that book. Another thing I have to do while I'm here is my taxes. I have not been able to file taxes since I became homeless. Years. Why? I certify under penalty of perjury, a felony. All information is correct. I don't have an address, one of the first things at the top of the form. Now in the intervening years, those forms have changed a bit, making it possible. But I have been out for all these years, and any chance I get, or different times, I will go out and try to get tax assistance on this. I went to the free tax service they had for the homeless, stood in a long line in the cold, got up to where there were about 10 people left after, an hour of waiting, hour and a half of waiting, and then they shut the doors and said, sorry, we've done all we can do. Try again next year. I went on the website here for, I'm not sure if it was Minnesota Department of Revenue or not, I think so, but it was one of the big, IRS or Department of Revenue. and it lists out all these things that they do, free tax service for the poor, just all these wonderful things they do for people, yada, 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 yada. Then you get to the bottom after reading all that, and it says availability. No free tax service available at this time. Your government at work. Somebody got paid money and accepted a paycheck to create that website with all that information that has no meaning or relevance whatsoever. Your government at work. As I go to these professionals out here, lazy bums, Minnesota, they will not help, they will not do anything. Once they find out I'm homeless and that I lost all my papers along with everything else, they want nothing to do with it, because you know what? It would take competence to do that. They would have to be competent enough in their own career, in their own professional career, to know how to fix that problem, and they don't. They would have to care about someone other than themselves, and even though I probably will not have any problem paying for it, although it's going to cost a ton of money, I can, but they hear the word homeless and they immediately think, oh, no money. It's all about them. It's nothing to do with me. And these people call themselves professionals. They're lazy bums. And I'm getting really tired of looking the way I do, disheveled, coming out of a car, going into these professional places and behaving more professionally than they do, so I can go back and sleep in my car again. But I have to do it. I keep trying. So that was one of the big 3 things on my agenda for this 6-day stay. When I first came in on Sunday, I'll be honest with you, when I came in, I got everything set up here, and then I just fell asleep. And I slept the whole day. And I was probably asleep a day and a half. And you have to get in the mode, especially when it comes to creative work, like writing a book. So I had to just get all that junk out of my head, all the stuff about work, all the stuff about this government. I had to get all those thoughts of how whenever I'm in that car, I'm constantly being harassed and terrorized by housed people, not by other homeless people. It's the police who come up and go boom, 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 boom on your window while you're sleeping and just make you jump up and your heart beating. Really good for your health, really good for your health. All these nice Minnesotans out there who laugh at you and they call the police because, oh my goodness, there's somebody sitting in a car. They must be dangerous. Wow. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Minnesotans filming you. You probably got... I put my own video of me sleeping on a Christmas Eve, an hour of me sleeping on YouTube, to compete with what are probably other videos of me sleeping in my car, because these nice Minnesotans seem to think it's funny to hold their camera up and film me while I'm sleeping. They don't help. They just, they just see a shivering body and they're trying to sleep, and they film it and then they go to their warm home. I had a lot of stuff to do here. After I got my got my mojo back, you might say, after a couple of days, I went right at it, and I was just productive constantly. And when I'm doing stuff like that, I tend to take naps. I don't sleep 8 hours and stay up all day. I take 2-hour nap, 4-hour nap, and then I work for as long as I can, take another nap. Well, I wrote about, I think, almost 20,000 words is what it was for the book, which is very good. I got some recording done. I got some really good ideas, fleshed out a couple of them. I did as much as I could on the tax thing. Looking at that website is one of the wastes of times that I had while I was here. No tax assistance available at this time. But I put as much effort as I could into it. But I was cooking with gas. I was getting stuff done. I was just focused, concentrating. I was getting everything done. And then on Thursday morning, so after about 2 days of me actually doing anything really, Thursday morning, I get up after one of the naps, I pick up the guitar, I'm trying to remember what it was I was doing before I took the nap, and then boom, 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 on that door. Go over and open the door. There's the housekeeper, looking kind of freaked out, I might add. I look out, there's like 6 or 7 other people out there. I'd say about a total of 8 people, including the hotel manager and this housekeeper. So the other 6 or so. From the Minnesota Dept of Health. They wanted to inspect this room. They wanted to inspect all the rooms, including occupied rooms, rooms that are paid for by guests. And they wanted me to step out into the cold so they could inspect this without me even being present. That kind of interruption and disruption is exactly what made me homeless in the first place. It is exactly the reason why living in that car, I can't get anything accomplished. So I pay a bunch of money to come in here on my only day off because I'm getting a paycheck for actually working. And I pay for this hotel to come in here and get something done, and what happens? A group of about 6 people, 7 people who just stood there doing absolutely nothing while collecting their paycheck. They interrupt me, violent knocking, and they want me to leave the room while they come in here and search the place. And I got furious with these people. If you don't understand why, then you haven't been listening to the first part of this video. These guys were dressed like gangsters. You know, this is a cheap hotel. You will get gangs from Minneapolis and such down here. And they all look alike, they all dress alike, they got their hats on sideways and all this nonsense going on. And they'll just stand out there for hours, just stand there doing nothing. Just talking loud, whatever. But when you walk by them, they all stare at you and intimidate you, make their presence known. That's exactly what the Minnesota Health Department did there. They were even wearing these cute little blue gang jackets. They're all dressed exactly the same. Just standing there. They're all wearing these cute little blue jackets. What is it, the Crips or the Bloods who wear blue? I assume the Bloods wear red. I don't know. I know Democrats wear blue. Okay, we got our answer there, don't we? Democrats wear blue. Oh, you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. They look like a street gang. They're just out there standing there doing absolutely nothing, collecting their paychecks. Money, 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 money. One person, Rebecca, comes in to search the place, do whatever it is she's doing, sniffing my underwear. I don't know, because I was outside of the room that I had paid for. I was not allowed by a non-law enforcement agency to be inside the room that I had paid for. They're not law enforcement, in case you haven't figured that out yet. You see, when they get to the point of law enforcement, then you will have the Nazi Party, the Aryan race, building the Aryan race, using eugenics, using health as a pretense to dominate and oppress and control people, take over their lives. That's not law enforcement. That's some random Yahoo government agency that shouldn't exist in the first place. You know, like I said, I haven't been sick in 25 years since I stopped using our corrupt healthcare system. Now, being homeless has hurt my body tremendously, particularly my teeth. But that's because you're sitting out inside of a car for 4 years, dehydrated, unable to eat, unable to get any blood flow going. That takes a toll on the body. But I don't get sick. When I was at the previous job, well, any job, frankly, any job, but the previous job in particular, it was an engineering firm, and we would have meetings all the time, almost daily. In these meeting rooms, some of them were very small, standing room only. People in there got the flu, they're just... They've got the flu every single year. They're taking off work over and over and over and over again for sickness. And I'm sitting there right in the middle of it, and I'm never getting sick. I don't get the flu. I haven't taken a day off work for sickness in a quarter century. They go fly on a plane for business, and when they come back, they get sick from something on the plane. Well, they flew me on a plane too. I didn't get sick. That's because I took over responsibility for my own health. I took it away from these fascists who have turned healthcare, what used to be one of the most noble professions imaginable, and they've turned it into a monstrosity, one of the most evil and disgusting industries on the face of the earth. Everything from the way that they have killed more people than anything else, probably with the drugs that they... Watch my video on drugs and watch how they give them to the children here and how easily the children manipulate these doctors, professionals, these little kids. How they pass their knowledge on from one kid to another to make sure they keep getting these drugs from these doctors. Watch the video. It explains it all. Because you see, I ask questions, which is something the health department doesn't do. They didn't come up here, well, they shouldn't interrupt me at all, to be honest. They should not interrupt me. But if they want to know something, ask me a question. Don't dictate to me what I'm going to do. Ask me, are you comfortable in here or do you feel like it's not safe? And you know what I would tell them? This is the safest place I have been in 4 years. It's the one place where I'm not at risk of dying. You bloody fools. Again, these Minnesotans cannot figure out that other people might live a way that is different from the way that they live. And these people who just stood around here for an hour or two, or however long they were here, an hour, more than an hour I'd imagine, while that one Rebecca goes in and out of these rooms, and they just stand there with their clipboards just throwing their weight around. We're from the health department. Hoo-ha! Collecting paychecks. You know, what do you think they were doing? Well, they weren't doing anything. I mean, I can't emphasize enough that they were just standing there. And the reason I can't emphasize it enough is because they were just standing there. They didn't do anything at all whatsoever. Nothing. They just stood there with their cute little gang jackets. You know, there's power in numbers. Why do you think those street gangs stand there in numbers? Because no one can come up and mess with an individual. They're a gang of thugs. If you go up to mess with one of them, you're going to mess with all of them, and you're going to lose that battle. That's why they're doing that. They're gangsters. They're thugs. There's nothing legitimate about that. I'm going to read you something here. Let me find this. I honestly wonder if anyone's going to recognize this when I read it. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. And no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Do you recognize those words? These people who claim to be from the government, the health department, Minnesota Health Department, apparently either they don't know those words, they don't know where it's from, or they're so illiterate that they do not understand what it clearly says. I could, as a writer, I'm not entirely sure how I could make that more crystal clear. It's the Fourth Amendment to the Constitution. And they're talking about law enforcement. Law enforcement cannot search and seize without a warrant, without probable cause. And the warrant has to describe exactly what it is they're looking for, who they're looking for. Clearly says that. This wasn't law enforcement. This was some random Yahoo agency. Just a bunch of random Yahoos. They mean nothing to me. Those people mean nothing to me. I have nothing but respect for the people who truly protect us, good police officers. The few people who are in our criminal justice system who make it a justice system I mean, have you ever watched Billy Budd? I say watch because nobody reads the books anymore. God, what a sad world we live in. Herman Melville, he wrote Billy Budd. They made a very good movie about it. Well, they probably made more than one. The guy did the right thing throughout. He did the right thing, and this overbearing, oppressive authority figure who was a psychopath pushed him to the limit, and he killed that guy in a fit of anger. So they put Billy Budd on trial. They put him on trial when he did what any normal person would do under those circumstances. That oppressive monster never should have been in a position of authority is the problem. And they ended up hanging Billy Budd. And you know why? They say it right there in the book. We are not concerned with justice. We're concerned with the law. The Fourth Amendment is the law of the land. These guys are dealing with statutory law. They're dealing with when a group of random yahoos get together and call themselves government. Just a bunch of random people, just like an athletic team is a group of random people, or a cult is a group of random yahoos. There's nothing about them that makes them inherently more competent, better, more moral. There's nothing about that group that makes them inherently more concerned with other people's well-being. They're just a group of random yahoos. And the Constitution was meant to prevent those people, those random yahoos who were not elected by the people, from being able to pound on someone's door, demand to enter my space that I've paid for. What? Sniff my underwear? I don't know. Rummage through my stuff? I don't know. I wasn't even allowed to be in here. Those people at the health department don't have the foggiest idea what the Fourth Amendment is for or the history behind it, because the Founding Fathers put it there for a reason. They knew history. They knew how tyrants operate. And in fact, I believe I put another one in here. Let's see. I'm going to have to edit out all this searching. Yes, here it is. Here's another quote from the Founding Fathers. It's from a document called the Declaration of Independence. Another document I don't think these health department people have ever read. They certainly have not comprehended it. They haven't thought about it. They haven't turned off their television set, taken their little smartphone, put it down, and think about something for once in their lives. They haven't done that. Specifically, they haven't thought about this from the Declaration of Independence, the reason why the Constitution was written. Speaking of King George, a tyrant, he has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. These unnecessary agencies that have statutory power, like the health department, useless, ridiculously useless, counterproductive agencies, are what? A multitude of new officers. Sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. This health department has been harassing the people who own this hotel since they took it over. As near as I can tell, their only purpose is to try to run these people out of business. And you know what? The previous owners of this hotel did nothing here. Those guys are trying to make a run of it. They're trying to improve this place. And one of the biggest roadblocks they have is the Minnesota Department of Health, which keeps showing up unannounced, telling them whatever you had planned to do today, whatever appointments you made, wherever you put your reputation on the line and told someone else, I will be there. Screw it. It's over. You can't do that anymore because we're the Department of Health and you will do what we say when we say to do it. Swarms of officers to harass our people. And as an aside, I bet I know what's going on here. One possibility, it would be par for the course for the way that this corrupt government works in Minnesota. I could see them running those people out of business. They get a lowball offer on the hotel, which it may be a cheap, rather dumpy hotel, but it's prime piece of real estate. And if you investigate the people who end up giving that lowball offer, I bet they'll have some association with some person at the Minnesota Department of Health. And yet, because they're dishonest, they gave me another reason for doing this. They said, we're concerned about the quality of life for the people in this hotel. Well, if you're concerned about the quality of life, then ask me how I feel about it. Because I'm the guest here, not you. I'm the one who paid money to stay here, not you. But you didn't ask. If you had asked, I would tell you that this place is a palace. It is a paradise for me. And one reason it's so nice is because it's the one place I can be in the last several years where I can get my work done without anybody going boom, 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 boom on my door, telling me to leave my room and demanding to walk in and inspect my stuff without a warrant. You can wear all the gang jackets you want. You can throw your weight around all you want. And you can have the authority of a corrupt government. That's not impressive. That doesn't impress me. That doesn't earn my respect. Because the only thing I actually saw happen was about 6 people just standing there collecting their paychecks, thinking to themselves, let's see, I can get a second cabin. Oh man, I can get a new car. I can get one of those little egg-shaped clown cars like everyone else has. I can, because I got to be like everyone else. I can get some clothes. That dress I saw at the store, I can get that. I got to update my phone. I've got to update my phone. I can't live without my phone. That's what these people are doing out there, getting paid by people like me who are fighting so hard just to pay my taxes, which goes to their salaries, to these lazy bums who are traitors against the Constitution. Let me give you another line from the Declaration of Independence. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. What did I just tell you I did for those years in that apartment? I petitioned for redress. I went to all those government agencies and asked them not just to help me, but to do the job they accept a paycheck for doing. The job that's in their job description. They are responsible for enforcing these noise laws, these harassment laws. They passed and created, authorized these laws, and they did nothing. I send all that information about the weaponization of noise to the health department, don't even respond. Guarantee you, nobody even bothered to look at it or care, because it's only other people who are affected. They don't care about the quality of life of people in this hotel. They care about themselves, and the evidence is in the fact that they just stood there and did absolutely nothing except collect a paycheck and think about what they're going to get. Meanwhile, in this beginning of the winter, another freezing sub-zero winter, 10,000 homeless people out here in Minnesota, 10,000 human beings outside in this, homeless. Hundreds of them die every year, which is twice the mortality rate of the general population. And what does the health department do for them? Nothing. And these gangsters with their cute little jackets stand there and tell me they're concerned about yada 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 of other people, yada yada yada. Those words don't match. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant. The only actions I've seen from these people is to create a corrupt fascist system, to not even respond when someone sends them 2 years worth of research on a very serious problem that falls under their purvey, supposedly, if they're interested in health at all. They didn't even respond. The things I'm seeing from them is to not help 10,000 homeless people. The things I see from them is to repeatedly harass a private business trying to run them out of business for reasons unknown. The things I see from them is a bunch of people just standing there doing nothing, getting paid. The things I see from them is one of them coming in here violating, even if they weren't violating the Constitution, they're violating just the laws of human decency. Wait 2 days until I vacate this place and then come in here and inspect it. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. Are we a free people? Because if we are, every single one in that group should be out of a job. They have violated they've violated everything. And violated is a very good word because that's how I feel right now. It is now 2 days later after this event. I got nothing done again, ever, after those people left. They have me so riled up. They did exactly what those horrifying neighbors did when they terrorized and tormented me inside my own home that I paid for. They did the same thing that all these people keep doing to me in my car out there. They interrupted me. They disrupted me for no reason whatsoever. This is different than a housekeeper coming up here. When a housekeeper comes up, they knock on the door, I get up, I go over there, I talk to them very nicely, have a good relationship with them. Exchange towels, whatever, thank you. I come back and right back to work, because that's perfectly normal. That's supposed to happen. When I check in, I sign a paper saying that management can enter the room anytime they want to. Well, you know what? I've had it happen. If management knocks on the door and says, I need to check batteries in the smoke detector or whatever, it's okay, come on, do it. They do it, I chat with them while they're doing it, they leave, thanks, right back to work. It's normal, it's supposed to happen. When I was in that apartment building, I would have kids screaming outside, running through the sprinkler or whatever in the summer out in their backyards, because it was a suburban area. That didn't stop me from getting anything done. That's what kids are supposed to do. It's perfectly normal. What's not normal is somebody dropping a refrigerator on my ceiling over and over and over and over again. Hundreds and hundreds of times. Sometimes at 3 in the morning, sometimes at 6 in the morning, sometimes from 3 in the morning until 6 in the morning. That's not normal. That's disruptive, and that's why I was completely incapacitated at the home that I paid for. A bunch of gangsters, random yahoos who I never voted for, show up and demand that I step outside into the cold while they come in and inspect something. That's not a normal disruption. They ruined the rest of my stay here after all that work I did without a break. Work! I accept a paycheck for working. Department of Health, if you want to know what work is, ask a homeless person. I will take a piece of paper, I will take a pencil, and I will draw pictures, and I will show you and explain to you what work is. And it has nothing to do with just standing around trying to intimidate and terrorize the guests of this hotel, doing everything you can to make sure that these people fail in their private business. That is not work. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people. You people are not rulers of anything. You're a bunch of putzes. You have statutory authority, which is pathetic. You didn't earn it. You weren't elected to it. You had to basically just join a cult to get it in the first place. You're pathetic. You don't even know enough about human history to understand why that is an abomination. You don't think about it enough to realize why it is an abomination. You just participate in it. You feel good. You've all got your uniforms. You're there projecting strength, projecting power. And you know what you look like to someone who does know human history? You look like that scene in Spinal Tap where the bass player gets stuck in that pod and he's just a buffoon. He's trying to play the bass. He's stuck in the pod. And then when he gets out of it, he raises his fist in the air. And if you listen to the commentary, he says, I was projecting strength. That's what you look like. You look like a bunch of putzes. You think you have power? Power comes with character and integrity. Power comes with serving the people who are in your community, not hurting them. You people are sick. The Minnesota Department of Health is sick. And it needs to be brought back to health. They have absolutely nothing to do with health. There's nothing in this place that's a danger. Health Department, did you get a complaint? Did some suburban moron while traveling between wherever and his little suburban mansion, which he's in debt for, maybe driving that little clown car, that little egg-shaped clown car everyone's driving today, which he's in debt for, wearing the nice clothes which he bought with a credit card? Did he call you up on his smartphone, which he can't afford either, to complain about the conditions here? You might tell him about the law of supply and demand. The reason this hotel is cheaper than other hotels is because it's not as nice as other hotels. That's the whole point. If every hotel is a 5-star hotel, then only people who can afford a 5-star hotel can stay in a hotel. If these suburban morons want to go into debt for all this other junk that they think's important, such that they can no longer afford a nice hotel, so they want to pay $50 and they think they're going to get a palace from it, what their definition of a palace, and they're so pretentious and so self-absorbed that they can't appreciate having a nice place to stay in, that's their problem. We don't need a health department, we need a psychiatrist for that person who made the complaint. Because their perspective is very, very poor. This place is a palace for someone like me, for the other people who stay here. This is a nice place. I love it. It saves my life. And you have no business trying to put these people out of business. If you put them out of business, then I no longer even have this place I can afford to go to. Or is that what you want? Again, I say to you that the government in a freely elected society is just a bunch of random yahoos. No different than a cult, no different than an athletic team or the millions of fans who follow them. No different than the collective group of Justin Bieber fans. They're not inherently more talented, more skilled, more intelligent, more knowledgeable, more competent, more concerned with other people, more humane. They're just a group of random yahoos. And that is the Minnesota Health Department, as much as any other agency in this ridiculous, corrupt state government they have in Minnesota. I'm going to leave a few links on this site. On the description, I'm going to leave a few links there. One of them is to a video about a story that really didn't get any traction. I think you'll understand why. It's a couple Minnesota legislators who were dealing with health care, because they care about saving the children. They don't send 1/5 of the human population on Earth out into cold weather that the National Weather Service says is life-threatening. They don't. They do that to save the children. It's not because they hate that 1/5 of the human population on Earth and they want to hurt them. They don't send 1/5 of the human population on Earth out into the extreme heat, which the National Weather Service says is life-threatening. They don't do that because they hate that 1/5 of the human population on Earth. They do it to save the children, to help people. That 1/5 of the human population on Earth, they're called smokers, who are, by law, at gunpoint, can't emphasize it enough, because if they keep resisting, they will end up at the end of a loaded gun. They will experience violence if they keep resisting. They are sent out into the freezing cold, which the National Weather Service says, avoid, 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 it's life-threatening. And they're sent out into the extreme heat, which the National Weather Service says, avoid, 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 it's life-threatening. These people don't care anything about health whatsoever. Here's two legislators, Minnesota legislators, you're going to see in that link in the description, who are supposedly dealing with this, doing their job, accepting their paycheck. They were elected to office. They're getting a paycheck to help with health care, to save the children. It's nothing about hating people. and wanting to make their lives miserable and destroy them and exterminate them might be the better word. It's nothing to do with that. It's about saving children. Well, here's a good example. The two legislators were caught in a car making out, having sex in a car, apparently. Problem is, they're married to other people. They're not married to each other, you see. They're married to other people. And what was their excuse? They're working on health care. I'm just sickened by these people. That's how much health care means to these people in terms of actually helping another human being on earth. It's all a smokescreen. It's all a pretense. It's all for them to get what they want. Nothing to do, because they don't care about other people. Watch my videos and you'll see one Minnesotan after another not care if I live or die, not care if these other 10,000 people out here live or die. They're liars. I'm going to put another link on there, and Department of Health, if you watch this video, I strongly urge you to watch this video in the link. You need it. This young woman is very impressive because she actually bothers to think. She actually bothers to study our history and the reason why we have that Constitution. And she makes a wonderful message to police officers. And you know what? Even though you're not law enforcement, sorry people, sorry, I know you want to feel tough and you want to feel powerful, but you're not. You didn't do the work necessary to become law enforcement. Sorry, you didn't do it. So you're not law enforcement, but you think you are. So this message apparently applies to you as well. Why don't you watch that? Because she asked the police some very, very good questions. I'll just warn you, they require thought. If that's too much for you, then go back to your suburban mansion, take your little clown car, hang your gang jacket up where you can see it, and just puff yourself up at how powerful you are. You have the ability to go up to a homeless person who works harder than you and to ruin their vacation. Take pride in that. You sick degenerates. Before I end this video, I'm just going to ask another rhetorical question. Since the health department is a bunch of random yahoos, and they claim the right to come in and disrupt my life when I paid for this place, I have nothing to do with them. They're supposedly inspecting a hotel, but they didn't. They inspected me. They disrupted me. They ruined my vacation that I worked really hard to earn. Worked for. I didn't stand outside my workplace for hours doing nothing. They're just a bunch of random yahoos. So if they can do that, why can't every other government agency do it as well? Why can't I get a knock on the door from the sanitation department? We're the sanitation department. Step outside, sir. We're coming in. We got something we need to do. Does that make any rational sense? How about Department of Transportation? MDOT. Boom, 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 boom. I go open the door. There's one of those yellow jackets, one of those guys who can't protect himself well enough without the government dressing him for him, without his parents from the government dressing him. Can't protect himself from getting hit by a car. Shows up at the door. I'm from the Department of Transportation, a government agency. Sir, step out of the room. I'm coming in. I got something I need to do. Does that make any rational sense? How about the library? The library is a government agency. Boom, 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 boom. Go open the door. Hello, sir. I'm a librarian. Please step outside of this place that you paid for. I'm with the government. I wasn't elected. I have no law enforcement authority, just like the Minnesota Department of Health, but just like the Minnesota Department of Health, I'm telling you, I'm with the government. Let me come in while you stand outside. I've got something I want to do in your room. Does that make any rational sense? Because in terms of law enforcement, there's no difference between the health department and the janitors and the librarians and those people who stand there just parked on top of a shovel doing absolutely nothing that you drive past getting paid for it in the Department of Transportation. Just like all these government people who bring their government trucks into the laundromat. While I'm out doing my laundry, they're on the clock, we're paying their salary, and they're there doing their freaking laundry. They still got a job. Lazy bums. Please, watch the 2 videos I'm going to put in the description. Go to the links for those. And I can only end this with a message to people who are not from Minnesota. I've absolutely had it. This straw broke the camel's back. This story is going to be told everywhere. I'm just sick of it. I've had it with this state interrupting my life over and over and over again. I've had it. Absolutely had it. These pretentious morons think that they have some kind of power and authority to go hurt other people while claiming to help other people. I've had it with this nonsense. I've had it. So my message to people who are not from Minnesota: watch my videos, learn what is going on here, learn what a cult mentality dominates this place. They call it Minnesota nice. You got to learn what it really is. Protect yourself. Do not ever set foot in the state of Minnesota. Do not ever do business with a Minnesotan. They cannot be trusted. They do not care about other people, people who are not them. They aren't even capable of such a thing. It's a sociopathic cult. And based on what I saw there, I would dare say psychopathic. These people are nuts. They are so out of touch with reality. They've convinced themselves they're helping people when all they do is hurt everybody in their path while failing to help people. 10,000 homeless out here. They're just standing there collecting a paycheck. If you're not in Minnesota, stay out. Avoid this place like the plague. Pretend that it's Sodom and Gomorrah, nothing but a smoldering ruin that's going to choke you to death if you go in there. Because you know what? If you come in here, they are going to hurt you. They're going to take advantage of you. They're going to exploit you. That's all they do here. That's all they do. I'm stuck in this nightmare of a state. Save yourself. Just avoid Minnesota like the plague.
Wind chill warning remains in effect from 6 p.m. this evening to noon Sunday. Expect wind chills to range from 25 below zero to 45 below zero between 6 p.m. this evening and noon Sunday, with the coldest wind chills occurring around 6 a.m. Sunday. The dangerously cold wind chills will cause frostbite in as little as 10 minutes to exposed skin. A wind chill warning means the combination of very cold air and the wind will create dangerously low wind chill values. Frostbite can occur quickly and even hypothermia or death if precautions are not taken. An excessive heat warning means that a prolonged period of dangerously hot temperatures will occur. The combination of hot temperatures and high humidity will combine to create a dangerous situation in which heat illnesses are likely. Drink plenty of fluids, stay in an air-conditioned room, stay out of the sun, and check up on relatives and neighbors. Young children and pets should never be left unattended in vehicles under any circumstances. This is especially true during warm or hot weather when car interiors can reach lethal temperatures in a matter of minutes.